wanted to. So we've spoken about 1982, the year that we don't want to speak about when we can help. But then after it, you had a 28-year break from motor racing, or a short while after you had a 28-year break from motor racing.
Yeah. What did I do? I think towards the end of it, I had about £100,000 sponsorship deal set up. I had 2 factory Yamahas delivered to me. I had a mechanic. I had a van. I was going to go race Grand Prix. I was going to do all sorts. And it just, for want of a better word, the whole thing just went tits up.
Right.
The sponsorship was withdrawn because the commercial rates in London on lots of properties was put up. So the company withdrew the sponsorship. I didn't have the money to run the bikes properly. And I was of the mindset that if I couldn't do it properly, I wasn't going to do it at all. So I walked away from it. And did a few random things. As I said, went on very long extended holidays, did a bit of climbing, a bit of canoeing, went up the Amazon in a canoe, went across the Andes, did the Machu Picchu thing, spent a while of summer working on a dive boat, helping people out. And then I thought, I needed to get a proper job, and ended up in London. I'd been in London a lot because I got fed up travelling up and down with the racing. So ended up working for Mercedes. Had, again, cut a very long story short, ended up as general manager of all things after sales on the Mercedes bus and coach side of the operation. Looked after all of the bendy buses that came into London. Lots of people being, oh dear God, he didn't have anything to do with the bloody bendy buses, did he?
You're the man they can complain to.
That's right, yeah. So, as I said, where Boris Johnson was involved and Ken Livingstone, and then they were all fighting about the bendy buses. She'd never been in London, and they were spontaneously combusting and bursting into flames, and there was all sorts of things. But what an experience in life, as I said, from a mechanic that worked at King's in Earlston to end up in the mighty Daimler looking after one of their key operations. Yeah, as I said, for somebody that struggled to read and write at 14 years old and all the things I'd gone through, I had thought, yeah, it's not too bad. And then you say you get married, you have kids, whatever. As I said, son got involved in go-kart racing, and then you get divorced and you move and things all change, and then you get remarried again, and as he said, life just takes over. And I think I was kind of, I was doing lots of different things. I was doing a bit of cross country running, and starting to pick up different events and do different stuff. And I was then diagnosed with throat cancer, and just came out with the blue. So, as I said, a bit of surgery, bit of radiotherapy, lost a bit of weight, and in the process of this, going back to very, very good friends. So Jimmy Shanks, my wife Susie, Robin Lamb, Leon Larego are all instrumental in putting me back on a bike. And I was, for want of a better word, I was in a shit state. I was struggling with life, struggling to eat, struggling to swallow. You would, after listening to this for the last hour and a bit, you'd hardly believe this, but I was struggling to talk. And it was going to the toilet on my hands and knees. I really was. It was not a pleasant place to be. And people say cancer, it's a battle, it's a fight, it's a horrible disease. It is all of these things. And I think where everybody's journey through it is different. How people are affected by it, by the radiotherapy, is different. I think where I had gone in for the radiotherapy treatment, and my wife and I would go there, and I had 35 fractions of radiotherapy. I would have 5 days of it, have the weekend off, go back in another 5 days for it. And we started doing jigsaws and things when we were there. But the attrition rate when you were going in there, you think, oh, well, where's all Dave gone today? Sorry, he didn't make it, sort of thing. And you were looking round about. And although it's a bit like the bike racing thing, where people die, it's real. It happens. And it was happening round about me to people that I was seeing on a regular basis that was just disappearing. So the mindset and again, just the willpower. Yeah, you need quite a bit of it for sure. As you said, I think I've got a great respect now for people that are anorexic, because it's an illness, it's a disease. And what I went through was, with all the treatment they were giving me, I was struggling to eat because of the mess my throat was in anyway. I was struggling to drink. So I didn't want to eat because I felt sick. I didn't want to eat because it was uncomfortable. And then if I did eat, I was then feeling sick again. So it was a vicious circle, but I was needing to put on weight, and I was needing to get protein, energy, all sorts of things in, and I was just struggling with it. So, but as I said, fortunately, as I said, with Susie looking after me, and as I said, I don't get away with very much, and force feeding me and all the rest of it. I was admitted into hospital where I just couldn't get anything in. So, as I said, the last week of the radiotherapy, it was wheeled from the ward down to have the radiotherapy, then back onto the ward, onto a drip, and I was hell bent on them not putting a tube in to feed me. Right. And that was going back to, I've watched my brother be tube fed for 2 years, and to me that was just the beginning of the end, and I had thought, I'm not going to let that happen. So again, another bit of a very useful tool that I used was him, and not wanting that to happen to me. So forced myself to eat and stuff and things. But I was very selfish in some ways, because I was in hospital, and it wasn't a nice environment that I was in. It wasn't good. And as you said, you had to have your wits about you. And Susie would come in to see me, and then because I then felt I could relax, I would then go to sleep. So I would sleep while she was there, and then when she was not there, as I said, I'm waiting on them to come and bring me my meds. So I would be doped off my nut enough to be able to eat and swallow and get food down. But if you didn't time it correctly, you couldn't get your meds in at the right time to be able to get the desired effect for you then to be able to eat. And I had a lot of people to look after. So, as I said, to try and orchestrate that so everything happened at the right time was really difficult. But managed to get over it. As I said, got over that, got home. And as I said, with a lot of TLC and patience and all the rest of it, she managed to sort of get me up and about. So I was able to walk, and then from walk, go for long walks and get more food in and get a bit of energy. And during that period of time, this is where Jimmy, Robin and Leon had all colluded, and Leon had sort of invited me up to come and look at his bikes and sort of reminisce over racing stuff and bits and pieces like that, because he helped me out massively with some of the go-kart and stuff that I did, although Leon has very much got a racing bike background. So we had a common interest in it all. And he says, Roddy, I've got an old TZ350G. He says, I'll tell you what. He says, you sort yourself out, and he says, you can race my bike. And I kind of screwed my face up at it and went, no, I've been there, done that, Leon. I'm not that bothered about it. And I'm not raced for God knows how long. Come on, you want to. He says, an itch that you can't scratch. He says, once the needle's back in the arm, he says, there is no going back. So I thought about it. And as I said, I spoke to Robin Lamb, and as I said, between Susie and everybody else, I said, have a go at it. And I said, well, you know what? I says, I'll have a go at it, but I'm not going to turn up half-cocked. Yeah. So Mark Waldron, that runs a company called Small Boy Track Bikes, it basically takes a bike to a track and hires it out for people to run around on. So Leon and I hired a couple of bikes off him, went to Donington, run around for a day. And Matt he knew nothing about my history or anything else. I was just another member of the public that turned up for a go on a track bike. And he said, by the end, he says he watched one lap and just wandered back into the garage. He says, no point in watching anymore. He says he obviously knows what he's doing, and just let me run round then for the rest of the day. So I did, I think, half a dozen track days with 600cc modern bikes, which I found fantastic. I couldn't believe how forgiving and how easy they were to ride. And in between all of this, Leon had been very busy putting together a 350 Yamaha for me. So I took the bike with Robin, Jimmy. Leon couldn't go, he wasn't well, but I took the bike up to Knockhill and did a round of the CRMC, the Classic Racing Bike Championship at Knockhill. Time qualifying, stuck the bike on P2 and won the first race after 28 years.
So 28 years.
28-year gap. I had one good race in me that weekend because I was absolutely destroyed. I finished second in the other two. I did, but it was an effort. Believe me, it was an effort. I had one good race in me that I tried. I thought, yeah, we'll give it a go, and I gave it a go. So as I said, that was after 28 years. So, and as Leon had quite rightly said, once the needle was back in the arm, there's no going back. So I don't know if that's a train spotting line or where that one came from, but it was.
That is truly incredible. After 28, I know people that could race solidly every day for 28 years and never get a podium, never mind a win. So for you to do a handful of track days and just hop back on the bike as if you've never been away.
I think, again, now, if I've had a bad day, and I saw somebody quite recently pulling a face because they had finished a third place and they got a third place trophy and they hadn't won. And I did say to them, do you know, I said, there's another 60 odd people out there that's been trying all of their days to try and get that trophy and they've not even got one. I said, you're pulling a face at because you've not finished third. You just want to have a word with yourself and just kind of enjoy it, make the most of it. And they kind of looked at me and said, they got it, they understood it.
Yeah. Wow, that is truly incredible. I can't get over that. The story you said, because you effectively went and lived a whole other life for 20 plus years, 25 plus years.
Very much so.
So when you got back on that race for the first day, and like you said, when that visor clicked, did the sudden 28 years just disappear and you were like, I'm back exactly where I was when I left off?
Yes.
Really?
It did. There's nothing much more to say to it than absolutely yes.
And now here's the question. Did you suddenly feel the cam automatum go, and did you just start to feel the smile just sort of come when you just stood straddling the bike going, I'm ready for this?
Yeah, it was. It was shut the visor, and as you said, it was a feeling that hadn't been there for a very, very long time. But it's just that moment where, as you said, the visor clicks shut and you're back in your world, in your own little world. And it's a place where I've not found anything to replicate that or replace it with.
Wow. It might be weird for you to hear, considering the situation you got to, but I am weirdly envious of you getting to experience that feeling. I am weirdly envious.
I've sat on the start line at the TT and I've looked very closely at people like McGuinness, Guy Martin, William and Robert Dunlop, and as I said, some of the front runners. And when they're all sitting on the grid on Glenclatchery Road, all ready to go, and the number of them that you see, all of the press and media, everything all sort of drifts into the background of it, and they're either sitting on their bike or they're sitting at the side of it, just ready to roll. And I can appreciate where they are. And as I said, where the adrenaline nerves and everything must be at. But you can see it, it's almost a sense of release that when they get to that point and they're away from everything else, because nothing else matters. Nothing. And this is where the racer's world is a very selfish one. So some of these people, as you said, you've got commitments, you've got mortgages, you've got partners, you've got everything, as you said, kids and all sorts. But at that point, nothing else matters. Nothing.
No, I can completely agree. I got that buzz from racing go-karts, things like Raceland and places like that.
Yeah.
I get that. I got that buzz from that when I was like 13, so I can only imagine how you felt.
Yeah, no, it's an experience, definitely.